Recently, Mark Cuban made a tweet, and it reflects a lot of what Amazon sellers feel like. So I want to read that tweet to you and my response, and then I want to unpack a few things. It's gonna be a long form video, probably almost 10 minutes, so buckle up. But if you have questions about like why Amazon is doing what they're doing to your seller account, this is going to be a great video for you. Mark Cuban said this is just a handful of days ago. It was on 9/18, so September 18th. Just had an interesting conversation with Kamala Harris's team about protecting American companies from Chinese knockoffs. Knockoffs are a plague on small businesses that cost them time, money, and may even put some of them out of business. Right now, all marketplace platforms like Amazon do is help them play whack-a-mole, which I don't believe is enough. Now, this is specifically talking about American companies who make things, and then there are foreign market knockoffs. The marketplaces will help those manufacturers kind of play whack-a-mole, but if you're a reseller, you're oftentimes the mole, or they think you're the mole, right? And the analogy I like to use is that they're fishing for tuna, but sometimes dolphins get caught in the nets. Even though you've not done something wrong, you're going to probably face some of these things that we have on the board that I'm going to show you in a second. So Mark is asking for suggestions, so I replied. Now, again, my perspective is mostly as a reseller. We have a handful of brands we started working with, and so I'm sure that I'll grow in my perspective in this, but for resellers, it's a big deal. My business partner, Joe, always says we can't compete with counterfeit products because it's just they get them so cheap that they're often selling them at our cost or even below sometimes. So there's no margin and therefore no incentive for us to keep reselling. So it's actually in our best interest that these platforms do the whack-a-mole game, which is the best strategy they have right now. So here's my reply. I said, Mark, thanks for shedding light on this. By the way, Mark liked the reply, so there you go. Thanks for shedding light on this. I agree it's an issue. We can't compete with counterfeit items. I help manage Amazon and Walmart stores for small business owners. Amazon especially is playing the whack-a-mole game hardcore. I agree with that. But for small business owners, it can be challenging when your capital is tied up in inventory and Amazon flags you for review, even though you haven't done anything wrong. All right. Flags you for review. I've seen stores with legitimate inventory made for the US market with a clean chain of custody get held up for upwards of 96 days. Their store totally frozen, unable to sell anything, obviously. Currently, I believe an AI for Amazon is just flagging things for review. Transparency codes can go a long way, but I suggest something closer to the manufacturer part of the supply chain. Here was my suggestion. There's got to be a way to track inventory from the time it's made to the time it's sold, right? Using blockchain, the way it tracks transactions. So that way a small business can know, and I'm talking about a reseller, a small business reseller can know that what they're buying to resell is legitimate. I think it'd be awesome if a manufacturer makes 100 items, if those are tracked using blockchain technology. And when I buy it from a distributor, I can see that it's all legitimate. I think that'd be amazing. Currently, we're all guilty until we prove ourselves innocent. The issue that this creates is it ties you up. It takes your eye off the ball while you're spending resources trying to get your store back online from Amazon. It happens all the time. So I'm going to use that opportunity to just unpack a little bit. We sell on Amazon as resellers or even brands. We sell through a custodian. That custodian is Amazon themselves. When you first start a store, they don't really trust you. They don't really know, and they have no reason to trust you. The only thing they can use is a handful of these tools that we'll cover. But ultimately, time on platform, consistently following the rules is the best equation for success on Amazon. So people always say, well, I'll just wait to start then because it's difficult. Well, then your timer hasn't started yet. It's just time over consistent good behavior. Amazon has an internal equation. It's the more revenue a store makes them over how many issues that store creates. The better that equation is in Amazon's favor, the more you'll win the buy box and the more profitable your store will be. So Amazon only has a handful of tools and they're combating very specific scenarios. Mark is talking about counterfeit goods, which is a big thing. They have a new thing at Amazon called Amazon Project Zero. It's been around for just over a year from what I understand. And the Project Zero is 0 stolen items, 0 counterfeit items. So they're casting those nets really, really wide, trying to catch the counterfeiters. And sometimes legitimate stores get caught up in those nets. Typically, it's only a matter of time before we can get you unstuck, or you can get yourself unstuck, but here it is. So Amazon's tools, they use an ID verification. So when you start your store, you have to jump on a video call and you have to hold up your license and make sure it matches. Why do they do this? Well, they're preventing ghost accounts. If you create a store, think think of it like almost like a Facebook account. If you violate their terms and policies, you can just use a different email address and sign up for a new account and keep that bad behavior going under a new ID. Amazon clearly has to prevent that because it's not just a digital good. There's real inventory and real costs to them when they have to take that inventory back or refund their customers. So with Amazon, it's one account, one ID per household for life, and all the strikes, but all the benefits are associated with that account for the long term. So in order to pull this off, Amazon's going to do random checks from time to time to make sure the person who started that account is still with that account. There is a market for reselling seasoned Amazon stores. We do not recommend that. We don't do it ourselves. We don't buy them. We don't sell them. There's a certain amount of risk associated with that for both the buyer and the seller of those, store fronts. But they do random checks throughout the year because there was a scam for a while where people from foreign countries were paying American people to set up an account, $250, use your ID, burn your account. You go on your merry way if you're the American who set up the account, and then they run it like a ghost account. And if it gets banned, they just rinse and repeat. And so Amazon does more frequent checks now to make sure that that person who set up the account is still involved and knows what's happening in the account. Because then obviously it makes it more cost prohibitive for them to do that because they have to keep those people on a payroll, as an example. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why they do the random checks. None of this is just to make your life difficult. It's to make Amazon's brand healthier and safer. And ultimately, you want these checks on the platform because it keeps off the riffraff. It actually makes the platform better for legitimate sellers. One ID per person per household. We covered that. Okay, number 2, gating, big issue for Amazon sellers. I want to sell a thing. I've got a good source for the thing. Amazon won't let me sell it. Why? Well, a couple things. Amazon's managing distribution agreements, right? Amazon's one of the largest brands in the entire US. They, in turn, are reselling and selling on their platform other brands. Those brands can have distribution agreements that go back 100+ years. And there's a lot of legal paperwork required to maintain all of that. You can imagine the nightmare it would create for them as everyone just jumps on platform and starts selling that brand's products. Like, for example, Apple's a clear one. You cannot sell Apple on Amazon. Only Apple can sell on Amazon. So you would be gated on that forever, as far as I understand. And then, brands as valuable as Apple, you'll probably never be able to carry it, but you may be able to carry brands like, Huawei or something like that. So it does get better over time because of that equation. The more you operate your store, revenue, transactions, time on platform, successful reviews. So you're not creating issues for Amazon and you are bringing them revenue. They will trust you more, thereby automatically ungating you more often. So there's hope on this one. This also prevents drop shipping, by the way. When you gate something, or ungate something is the colloquial term, you basically send proof that you have it, like you send physical pictures of 10 of the items and you prove it with a receipt that you have it. Then they match that receipt up with the transaction on your credit card or through your checking account. They're doing that to prevent drop shipping, where people take a photo of something they do not yet have, list it on the platform. Once it's bought, then they buy it and ship it direct from whoever has the product. And that is against Amazon terms of service, and you can imagine why. This was really prevalent during COVID, and all of the drop shippers got caught with their pants down because the supply chain came to a crunching halt, and they couldn't buy from the source. So there was imagine this: Amazon thinks they have 10 million more units of toilet paper than they actually have because all these drop shippers are buying from the same target, if you can get there. So that's another thing they're trying to prevent. Last thing, Section 3 store reviews. In Amazon's reseller or Amazon Seller Central, when you sign up, you agree to Section 3, which essentially says we can suspend your right to sell on our platform for any reason. So a review is called a Section 3 review. What this is doing is it's freezing the operations of your store while they investigate. It can be a million things. It's an AI flagging it. We found out today through our consultant, we have a saffron scented item in one of our stores that we manage, and saffron is highly counterfeited. It only comes from one region. So just having the title in this bar of soap flagged the whole account. I mean, it's that, and they are not publicizing this list. I guess you can find bits and hints of it inside their API, but you would need a developer to do that. So What they're doing these reviews for is for regulation. In the standard operation of a store, you can deviate as things get tough and margins are slim. Maybe you reach for a product from a little bit of an unscrupulous distributor, but they've got a closeout deal. That's not ideal for Amazon because that chain of custody won't be there for those products that you're selling. So, like the health department, this is my favorite analogy for this. When you start a restaurant, they give you basically rules that you have to build your restaurant by. It's called code. It has to be up to code. They're going to want stainless steel. That's to prevent bacteria and food poisoning. They're going to want 2 basins, one to rinse and one to wash. There's certain criteria you have to follow. Amazon says yes to all that when you set up your store. But as you're operating your store, you might not be following their regulations all the time. So they will do a random check based on a flag of some sort. And that's like the health department kicking down your door saying no more operations until we investigate. It's okay if you do things right, you'll get through these. You may have to do a handful of meetings over video with one of their compliance departments, but essentially that's what's happening here. If I were you and I had an Amazon account, I would expect to get one of these. And you should act like you're going to get one every shipment and keep really good document hygiene and only buy from really good sources. In that regard, when we started to see these Section 3 reviews ramp up, obviously it was a little bit unnerving, but when you understand the reason behind it, you can navigate it. Because of these, what we did was we shrunk our distributor pool, meaning the people that we could buy from. And what we started to do was we made sure we asked all the right questions. Are you allowed to sell this? Are we allowed to sell it? Can we sell it on Amazon, US Marketplace? Do you have e-commerce authorization? Making sure that whoever we bought the product from had all of their agreements in line back to the manufacturer. Just that check alone shrunk our pool of possible, people we could buy from. All right. We then added one more thing based on some experience we had. We did all of our checks. Everything looked good. We bought a product. We bought almost $500,000 worth of it. We put it in some Amazon stores, and then we got a cease and desist from the lawyer of the manufacturer. In our thing, we're like big rule followers. So we contact the attorneys who said, hey, no problem. The product does seem to be authentic, but you don't have the right to sell it on Amazon. That exclusive belongs to a company called Pattern. All right. Now we said, okay, well, can we get a sell-through agreement so that way, any of the stores we manage aren't out of compliance? They were cool. They gave us those, and we signed a document saying we will honor your exclusivity. Here's the crazy thing. Amazon doesn't actually honor exclusivities outside of themselves. Meaning if a manufacturer and a group of resellers have a deal, Amazon doesn't technically recognize that. But the question, now if you have an exclusive with Amazon, they will recognize it. But the question is, do you want to litigate it? Do you want to fight it? Our answer was no, we'll move on, find a different product. Okay? Now, we also, because of that, we added one check. When a distributor says, yes, I have the right to sell it. Yes, the manufacturer says it's good for e-com. Yes, we can sell it on Amazon. We call the manufacturer. We show them what they said, and we actually now verify with the manufacturer that this distributor has the right to give us the right. Highly recommend adding that check. Once we added that, our pool shrunk even more, but now we're spending more money with fewer distributors, getting better terms. So it was kind of a net positive for us. But last thing, policy changes. The reason they Section 3 and review you from time to time is because Amazon updates their policies almost every quarter, and it is like a full-time job to stay up on those policies. Obviously, you can imagine with 9.6 million sellers, a lot of stores don't always follow the newest policy changes, and so that's the other reason why they're doing this. That being said, and there's even more, but this is a great list of 3. What all of this equals out to is they're trying to get active, healthy seller accounts. And using all these tools, they're getting off the riffraff, the scammers, the drop shippers, the ghost accounts, the people selling closeout resell that might be counterfeit. They only want active, meaning you ship often, healthy, meaning you have good supply chain documents, good hygiene, and they want all of their sellers to abide by those rules consistently. The more you do that, the more you will win at Amazon. That's exactly what we do here. We spend a lot of time getting standard operating procedures that align with Amazon, because Amazon wants your product on there. They make money when it sells. So remember those things. You will do well. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Appreciate you.